Thanks for tuning in to the Urban Scope podcast. I'm back with more sports news. And of course, reports are that Eric Bieniemy is scheduled or reportedly going to be back with the Kansas City Chiefs um, as retaining an offensive coordinator job. He was with the Bears just past week as the running backs coach, but they're bringing him back, of course, after Matt Nagy is leaving for another job. Um, and of course, Eric Bieniemy has a storied history with the Chiefs. He was with the Chiefs from 2013 all the way to 2022. Won two Super Bowls with the Chiefs during their illustrious times, and it's going to be important for him to return for a lot of reasons. And I've been saying this before that they needed Eric Bieniemy back, and Eric Bieniemy needed them back as well because he went off into Washington and uh, UCLA, I believe, and then he went to Chicago. So he's bounced all over the place looking for a head coaching job, and it doesn't seem like he'll get that opportunity for whatever reason. Maybe he doesn't interview well, or maybe it's just a fit for him just to be in Kansas City, and maybe he'll succeed Andy Reid one day when he decides to hang it up. But for now, he'll be the offensive coordinator in Kansas City, but I think it's important for them for several reasons. For one, it's for just a discipline aspect of the team. I know a lot of players have spoken out saying he was the disciplinarian and he was like the vice principal to the principal in school matters. He was the guy who always maintained the order and made sure players were doing what they were supposed to, held players accountable. Because that's not really Andy Reid's job. He's more of a player's coach. He's more of those coaches that is the good guy and just want to tell you, he might uh, get on to you about certain things if you miss a play or something like that. But he's not going to be the guy that that makes sure you're right before the game, make sure you're doing things the right way, you're not getting lax. Because a lot of things that Mahomes does is kind of lax, and I think Eric Bieniemy was kind of that guy to get things in order. There was a sideline incident where you could see not Andy Reid, but Eric Bieniemy and Patrick Mahomes going back and forth, and I think that was like the last time you saw him. But I think they needed that kind of order, um, and they haven't had that, and they need to change the mentality as well because they've been real sloppy with the play. They've been careless with the turnovers. They've been and doing a lot of different things. And to get that change of pace or mentality, you're not going to let go of Andy Reid, or you're not going to let go of the ownership. And not going to let go of the ownership. So the only next move is, I mean, you got Matt Nagy who was leaving out anyway. So to replace him with Eric Bieniemy might bring back some of those old memories of the glory days, especially with what they have coming up down the pipeline. Because you might not have Kelsey next year, but if you do, you have a deteriorating Travis Kelsey. You have Mahomes, who's coming off that injury, that Achilles injury, and he might not be the same quarterback ever. He might be less mobile, so a lot of stuff might be in the pocket for him. I have no doubt that he'll come back from this injury with the resources that he has, and today with modern medicine. But still, there's still a mentality aspect of it that you will always have in the back of your mind that you injured it, and you'll be scared and kind of hesitant to do what you used to do, especially at that level. So you might not see the same Patrick Mahomes again. So you might be getting diminished returns on that. But even a diminished returns, Mahomes is better than probably 90% of the league still. But you have that, and then you have the Kansas City Chiefs moving from Kansas City, Missouri to Kansas City, Kansas in the next few years. So they need to make some moves to fill up that stadium, to bring renewed interest because the fan base is the fan base. They're going to be there regardless. Same people going to buy the season tickets. Same people going to be hitting certain games and having that same fan base and wearing the memorabilia that won't go anywhere because NFL fan bases are pretty much loyal for the most part. They stay where they are because football is such a glamoring sport for these fans to watch. So we'll always have that, but they need renewed interest and some kind of hope or a beacon of hope or some kind of nostalgia piece that brings the team back together and brings some kind of hope. And I think Eric Bieniemy is the starter piece for that. I think they'll make more moves in the draft and maybe in the offseason as well, and maybe get rid of some of the old pieces that they have. Because Eric Bieniemy has a checkered past too, which makes sense for this move because that's what the Chiefs does. And I talked about that on the previous segment. But I think he can revitalize this team. and they need to bring out some of the old bad pieces that they had and bring in some of the pieces that from their glory days back. So whether that's bringing Alex Smith as a quarterbacks coach or something, you need to bring in some new piece that brings to revitalize this team because last year ended pretty bad, especially at the end when they were trying to make the playoffs, and then Mahomes' injuries just seemed like it happened at the worst time. But you can kind of feel the changing of guards toward the end of the season. So we'll see, what this move does from them because, like I said, both parties needed each other. Eric Bieniemy needed the Chiefs because he couldn't find stability anywhere else, and he could never get that coveted head coaching job that he wanted, which most minorities don't get that privilege. So Bieniemy, he really wasn't calling plays on offense. They contributed that to Andy Reid, but for somehow Matt Nagy found a job and they think he called plays, but we know he doesn't call plays either. So we know what it is as far as head coaching goes. But Eric Bieniemy, the Chiefs needed him as well because they didn't have stability as far as discipline. Matt Nagy wasn't going to provide that. Andy Reid's not providing that, or anybody else on that team. Mahomes can try, but he has a lot of loose cannons on that team that you can't really control. So the Chiefs definitely need that toughness and mentality, opposed to what Machady McCord would say. Machady McCord doesn't like Eric Bieniemy at all because he was running backs coach, and Tyreek Hill said he made him like tuck the football because we know Shady used to run the football like a loaf of bread. Um, and that's really frowned upon and he didn't let him get away with it. So Shady McCoy would be definitely not he would definitely be opposed to this movement with Eric Bieniemy. But for the most part, I think this is a great move for both parties and beneficial for both parties. So hopefully, Bieniemy will maybe find a head coaching job, or maybe he'll get the reins from Andy Reid once he's done because he's had, close to 10 years experience with the Chiefs and he knows the system and everything. So, but tell me what your thoughts about this. Until next time, I'll see you next time.